As tonight's oldest storyteller, take it from me that times have changed. When I was 5 years old, my father took a job with American Airlines IT department in Tulsa, and we were living in Washington at the time, so American would fly my family and me to Tulsa first class. And the adventure starts at the airport. Dulles Airport looks like a futuristic spaceport, which is only fitting because the Boeing 707 that we would take looked like a rocket ship. And as soon as we stepped on board, the most beautiful woman I'd ever met pinned some wings on my collar and took my brothers and me to see the cockpit. It was amazing, all the dials and the switches and the instruments. And I remember the sky being gray because it was wintertime, but when we popped above 5,000 feet, the sky turned the most brilliant blue, and the clouds to me were just huge French poodles and bunny rabbits and fleecy lambs. It was absolutely magical. And all at once, the cabin crew stood, sprang into action, starting with drink orders, and the stewardess asked me what I wanted, and thinking that the selection was the same as at home, milk, you can imagine my delight when she recommended 7-Up or ginger ale. Now, think back if you can to the first time when the combination of cold, sweet, and sparkle hits your young palate, right? Dopamine for a 5-year-old, right? Right? And drinks were followed by dinner on china, silverware, and your own salt and pepper shaker. It was the first time in my life that I used a napkin that was not either my sleeve or made of paper. It was on that day when we landed in Tulsa that my brothers and I fell in love with air travel. Now, for an airline employee, the greatest benefit by far is air travel, and my family took full advantage. And my father, who was very permissive, and some might even call him reckless, I thought he was awesome. And as an example of his awesome recklessness, he would allow my brothers and I, as our rite of passage, to fly unaccompanied. We called it flying solo. So one day when I turned 9, with great anticipation, my father dropped me off at the Tulsa airport, curbside, gave me $2 and instructions on which flights I was to take and return on. And I chose the biggest badass airport in the world, Chicago's O'Hare. So I go straight to the gate, right, no TSA, and I remember the ticket counter being taller than me, so I slam dunked my pass onto the countertop, and I said, "Window, please." And I swear to God, the ticket agent, she didn't flinch, she did not blink an eye, she just gave me a boarding pass. Next passenger. And what happened next is I'm walking down the jetway to mark this momentous occasion. I had to get into the right frame of mind. So my 9-year-old self transformed into a 1970s businessman. And by the time I boarded the plane, I'd become Don Draper. I looked to the cockpit, I gave him a thumbs up, I said, "I'm good, don't need the cockpit tour, been there, done that." Flight attendant was gonna pin something on my shirt, and I said, waved her off, I said, "Coke and Jack, easy on the Coke." And there must have been some confusion because the drink that I got was easy on the Jack. She asked me what I wanted for lunch, and I said, "Surprise me, sweetheart." Surprise me she did, chicken nuggets and a Happy Meal. As for my coffee, I wanted it like my lucky roulette bet, black. It never came. We got to Chicago, she's waiting for me at the door. Bye-bye. She missed my lips, kissed me on the forehead. I would have bought her a drink, but you know what? I had places to go and things to do. So really, Chicago's O'Hare for me was better than Disneyland. Back then, the only place where you could play arcade games were bars, bowling alleys, and airports. And the arcade for me that day was the most fun that $2 could buy. But like all good things, Chicago had to come to an end. And happy to be headed home, I reverted back to 9-year-old Johnny Lee. And instead of wash, rinse, and repeat, I slept the entire way home. When I landed in Tulsa, true to his word, my father was waiting for me curbside. And in case you were wondering, there was no sign of Child Protection Services. But my father, I love my father very much. Till the day he died 2 years ago, we were still on a handshake basis. And the handshake that day could have meant many things. Welcome home. I'm proud of you. You were brave to do it. But let me tell you what bravery looks like. In 1960, a young man in Korea gets on an airplane to go to the biggest badass country in the world. He was by himself. In other words, he was flying solo. And nobody would be at the airport to pick him up. Over the years, Dad would do very well for himself. Dad was many things. He was a husband. He was a father to 4 sons, 2 of whom would become airline pilots. He was a grandfather to 14. He was a war veteran, and he was a man of great faith. And on this day, as I choose to honor him, I will call him this: Dad was a game changer.